a very humorous shiur.
Yes, we need some fun today. Humorous shiur. I'm all for it. So we last time spoke about relationship flow, connection when things are unstable, instable, it's challenging, and we talked about choosing inspiration. Now we're going to talk about when things seemingly are normalized, which, in Israel, normalization doesn't, there's no such thing really, as you just said. But
When you say normal, that's really...
well, we're not like having Iran and World War III being threatened and hi.
Hello.
We just started, so it's a good time.
Correct.
So so since we're not going through such a crazy two weeks or 12 days or whatever it was a week or two ago, meaning you can get a flight if you want, you guys please go, we'll get your Europe trip and I'll get my rescheduled Düsseldorf trip and things will go forward. We already got the Tel Aviv event next week. Thank God I don't have to worry about a missile landing, because it did actually. A missile actually blew up the windows of the place we were going to perform at. So it was a pretty wild time, it's not one of the things we'll talk about when you have normalization, part of that time is in relationship you're going to see, it's called regrouping. Regrouping is a powerful concept. My wife always talks about it, my soulmate. She always talks about this concept where you need time to regroup, because you're not always going to be able to be on the run. You're always going to be on adrenaline. A lot of life here has been recently living on adrenaline, survival, fight or flight, that whole vibe. But you can't live that way. Yeah, it's not healthy. People that live that way either get sick or emotionally, mentally, something goes wrong. You have to have times like this where it's more normal, thank God, a bit more peaceful. You get to not be in the back of your mind worried about another siren. I mean, we did have one 2 nights ago that I did actually see in the sky, but it was the Houthis. It's less of a concern. And
Houthis are NBCs.
yeah, their one's a little, it's all bad, but or not good, but they're little rockets and it's not as scary. It doesn't you don't feel it. So we're in a bit more of a normal time. So now we can regroup. We can be together and discuss things with slightly less feeling of nervousness, anxiety, and there's room now to sort of gather yourself and start to, one, internalize what just happened, if you're up for that. 2, start to make more plans going ahead, because everything was on hold for a while. And then you can, most importantly, is be present, be now. But part of the thing is, there's no real normalization, as we all said when I mentioned it. Because in Israel, there's no real normalization. How can you normalize this country the way its history's been, even if there's moments of so-called peace? It's almost like peace on hold. It's what do you want to say?
I think you can normalize the state of Israel because Israel is a miracle.
Yeah.
Even though we living through bombs, there's been a lot going on. The state of Israel is a miracle.
Right.
There's nothing normal or casual about it.
Yeah, she's 100% right. What's your name?
No,
So she's no more than 100%. It's this is the truth of our people, that we were created through miracles. Our whole forefathers and patriarchs and matriarchs, they created our first, Yitzchak was born through a miracle, and the Kedesh Yitzchak and everything we went through and all the way through till now. The whole point is our nation is a miraculous nation. And anyone who comments on our people, either to hate us or to praise us, is going to have this sense of supernatural, something unexplainable, something beyond. And Mark Twain wrote about us. And you should look up that quote, by the way. You should look up, what does Mark Twain on Google say about the Jews? Very, very inspiring. You take someone like Mark Twain and you get inspired by his words, because he's able to perceive us from the outside and see how awesome our journey was. And that was in the 1800s, 1900s, all the more so now, especially this last few years. So for relationships are also on a certain level miraculous. The fact a man and a woman, this is what we're sort of going to get into a little bit. No, you're on time, it's all good. It's a little bit late, but we're only 5 minutes in, so I'll catch you up. We're just talking basically about relationships during normalization. And once again, everyone can ask questions. If you have what to say, I'm cool about it.
Can
No, it's not my style.
I really like the hat today.
Yeah, so this thank you, sir. Last week, he's funny. Last week, I came with a 21 Pilots hat because I was
I remember.
I was rocking that from the fact that I had that amazing moment with my wife, and I wanted to like bring it into that energy into the class. But after a war and everything, but now I'm wearing the 007 because this is more my personality, more my style, like James Bond, English.
You give James Bond vibes.
Yeah, and my family actually have all the licensing for James Bond worldwide. So, in terms of all the merch, and they made this hat. So, yeah, what do you want to say?
Okay, I've got 2 questions that
Yeah.
are not related to Torah in any way, shape,
No problem.
Okay.
You did come up with the best comment so far, so
Thank you.
you have rights.
The first one is, have you ever thought about beating your beard and like rocking your beard?
When I was around 16,
My dad's goal.
yes, I could be. This is long. This is. When I was 15, 16, I had this au pair. Do you know what an au pair is? Does anyone have that?
Yeah.
I mean,
had one for 2 nights and she quit.
Okay, well, I grew up with au pairs. So in England, not everyone knows what an au pair is. And my au pair, you're going to miss this story, man. This is mad.
We got better.
Oh, shame. So the au pair, what did she say? She came all the way from, in those days it was called Yugoslavia, which, is non-existent. Now it's broken up into a few different countries, but that was before that crazy war that happened. But she came to my house and she was this big lady, and I used to have a lot of weed somehow through some of my friends or whatever, and she was like my roller. Like she was professional roller. She'd roll the best spliffs you can get.
You would pay to roll your cigarette.
I didn't have to pay her.
Not
She
cigarettes.
she was in my weed, yeah. Also cigarettes. But anyway, so she was coming in and rolling my spliffs. She probably smoked with us as well. That was part of the whole deal. But anyway, she was not attractive, nothing. It wasn't like any of that kind of, energy at all. She was just very like nice person and helpful. And anyway, I wanted to go out to this party, and I used to have what's called a parting. I don't know if nobody has it anymore, but back in the day it was like, and then we had to have it shaved all underneath, like the opposite of a Jewish haircut, and long hair like coming down. So instead of all the hair here, it was up here. Instead of the beard, it was on the head. And it was long.
Like a mushroom.
Yeah, like mushroom style, like really long. Like Kurt Cobain or whatever, yeah? So now, I had that kind of hair, but I didn't feel like cool, so, because I'd already had that look for a while. So instead of getting a haircut, I asked her to do something. And she said, yeah, she knows how to braid really well. So she braided and put beads and did a whole like dready style. And that was really fashionable in the 90s. It comes back here and there, like, I don't know if anyone was into Jungle or Snoop or that kind of vibe. Dready. It was like this whole brand at that time. And everyone was like trying to, be like, what do you call it? I don't want to say anything like controversial, but like,
It's alright, we're used to that type.
white face or
My second question is,
Yeah.
you said
black face. Yeah. I was trying to be like a bit of a rude boy, as they say in London. So I had the dreads, I had the weed, I had the baggy cool clothes, and I went out that night, and I felt cool. So that was the last time I dreaded my hair. It was a long time ago. I didn't dread my beard. What was the second question you were going to ask?
The second question is, you said something about your family and James Bond.
Yes, so one of the merchandise things they do is many things, but I was just watching Live 8. Anyone heard of Live 8?
No.
Live 8, and then there was Live 8 20 years later, and then 20 years later after Live 8 was now. It was 2025 and nothing happened. They did have a festival in LA, if any of you heard about it, Fire LA. None of you Americans probably don't care.
Yes, didn't it go really badly?
It wasn't such a good event, yeah.
No, you got people got stranded and like.
Oh, I mean the fire was pretty heavy, but the event happened there was called Fire Aid, I think. It was like trying
Do you
to.
know what I'm referring to? There was a really big festival in LA, and there was like a pyramid scheme basically, and nothing was the same.
Well, the festival that I saw that on Netflix was that was Woodstock, and that wasn't in LA. That was in a place called Rome. Originally, it was in a place called Basel, which is a good name, it's God's house. And that Woodstock in '69 was like amazing. And then they tried to do another Woodstock 30 years later in Rome, and it literally burned down, and it was a nightmare. So Woodstock sort of became a brand that they couldn't really follow up on anymore. But anyway, I could tell you lots of this kind of stuff because this is all, as much as I love the Torah, I also, unfortunately, growing up in that world, know a lot of that kind of stuff as well. But anyway, yeah.
My question is, is there such thing as James Bond monopoly? If yes, can you please...
Now, I just saw a comedian, he did a really good set called Hood Monopoly. And that got him a golden ticket.
That can't be loud.
Hood Monopoly. Yeah? No, he was a black guy, so he could get away with it. And he was making all these racial slurs about black people being that he's black, so he's allowed to do it. I'm not allowed to do it, so I'm not going to repeat any of his jokes. But anyway, there is all kinds of monopolies. But nevertheless, let's get back onto the James Bond story. Yeah, go on.
I have one question.
Yeah.
I recall you saying you were from Menachem. Like you lived
No, I lived there for like around
so
6 years or so.
A few of us are going there tonight to get challenged.
Yeah.
You're a good place.
So chillin', there is some amazing chillin' places around Jerusalem. There's one in a place called Zikron Moshe. Zikron Moshe is right by a famous shul. Zikron Moshe is in an area called Makor Baruch. The only thing is, it's pretty like guys only. Like, I mean, you can send a guy in to get you chillin'. Yeah, yeah. It's like near. It's called Makor Baruch. It's called Zikron Moshe. It's a minion factory. It's old and there's a little children's store. One of my friend's fathers actually owns it. And anyway, I mean not my friend. It's more my son's friend. But anyway, there are the children places. There are plenty. I mean, you can look it up even like children. Just Google children in Jerusalem and you'll see loads of stores and stuff. It's quite a common thing. There are a bunch of them, but that was the famous one. I once went there with a rapper. I mentioned him last time, Shine. And there was this toothless beggar sitting there, and he ordered like loads of food because it was like 3-4 in the morning. We'd been in the studios with like Def Jam. I don't know what was going on. It was really odd because we were like with Def Jam in 1 minute at some club, and next minute we're like with like Mir Sharim Chevra in a children place. So it's two different worlds in one moment. Anyway, so there was a toothless beggar sitting in front of us, like sitting at the table, like obviously waiting. I don't know, maybe someone would give him some food or whatever. So my Shine just pulls out 200 shekels and hands it to this toothless guy. And he gave me the funniest smile. It was so crazy seeing that. Like, just the two worlds, like, and, and Diddy got off, would you believe it? I can't believe it. Yeah, it's crazy. New York needs such a healing.
Oh, yes.
But anyway, yeah, that's crazy.
What he got off?
Yeah, what next?
They're involved in the music industry and stuff. Like I'm saying, did you know who Bob Dylan was before this?
No,
thing?
he's nobody. He's nobody, and he should continue to be nobody. Maybe he's got some small cult following, and now he just boosted because of his anti-Semitism, like all those kind of people who joined us. But yeah, no.
It really sucks because it's really.
Yeah, that's the problem. But the good news is if you go to an organization called Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, if you Google Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, they've got a video that just came out called Bob Dylan or Bob Villain. And it's a really good video of how they show the difference between the two realities. And you see how you take a normal person and they'll be very honest about how disgusted they are by this. And normal people, like students, any kind of people, and it's very comforting when you just take normal people from the street who still have brains and haven't been brainwashed to hate us, so that they'll, thank God, be able to see through this, and they'll see the greatness of Bob Dylan, who was a Jew, obviously, and they'll see the not greatness of this guy. But anyway, back to the James Bond story. So my family have been involved for years and years and years with Bond. That's one of the many brands they do. And I find that it's not the most Torah, obviously, like way of life, because he would, not really respect women and he didn't really have relationships. But there is a point there, like everything you can learn out from what I learned from it is that you have to go get what you need to get. You need to get things done, missions done, kind of obstacles. You saw it in all the movies, no matter how crazy, like Mission Impossible style, like Tom, whatever his name, the Cruise style, where you can jump out of anything and it'll make it. Now, obviously you don't want to put your life in danger and do stupid things, but the point is that there is a mission for us as a Jewish people, for us to do. And we should be able to willing to have the courage to sometimes take risks. Now, back to our subject, which is normalization. Generally, you're not. What did you say?
I prefer Austin Powers.
Austin Powers. That was funny. Now, around my house, I have Mini-Me. You know that little guy? Because my family also did that merchandise as well. So I have the little mini-me, like, so, and it actually talks.
So cool.
And it talks.
Actually.
Is
Yeah.
that the most empowers monopoly?
I never
I
saw
feel like
it.
we should chat afterwards.
Yeah, I never saw that. But let's get back to the relationship. So the idea of normalization. So we're in a state of normalization with, explanation or however you call it. What do they call these guys? Quotation marks. We're not really normal, but, I'm not normal. The situation's not normal. Things are miraculous and at the same time challenging. Now, when we're in a state of seeing the miracle, in a mindset, and you see the miracle, like I said, of finding your soulmate, that was the next point I was going to get to. When you find your soulmate, that whole process is generally miraculous. That's also another big part of our history. The fact that Avram found Sarah and Rivka found Yitzchak, and the whole process of Yaakov with his wives, everything's miraculous all the way through. Yeah, David and Melech. You go through our history, just the fact our relationships are not standard. The fact that Mashiach comes from she was a harlot, but she wasn't a harlot. She was actually a holy woman who had to dress up like a harlot for the sake of prostitute, to dress up as like an OnlyFans kind of model for a moment, just for the sake to have so Yehuda could, be with her, and then because his two sons had already died. Relationships, if you go in the Torah, are not normal. Yeah, it's if anyone follows Jordan Peterson, the way he analyzes Genesis, you see how operations, you see how he experiences the relationship, or Rabbi Sachs, and he explains the relationship factor of our people and our journey. It's all very beyond. It's not a standard story, and that's obviously giving us the tools, one, for our own relationships. There's plenty of tools there to help guide us, but there's also giving us an awareness that it's not always going to be calm and easy. It's actually generally going to be a struggle, but it's a struggle where, once again, you're having that heavenly help so you get through it. My sons once asked me, how is it there's so many secular people, even if there's a massive divorce rate, but how is it that they're managed to stay married when we learn from the Torah that, this is a question for my kids, you have husband and wife, the way they come together is the Shekhinah, the divine presence brings them together. So if they're not into the divine presence, they don't care about it, they just want, whatever the benefits of marriage are, they're not thinking about godliness or anything to do with spirituality. How is it they're managing to be married? I could say that about my own parents. They're not religious. They're not thinking about it in that way. How do they manage till now to still be married? So I don't know if anyone here has ever thought about it. Anyone thought about it?
Yeah.
How people who are not connected into God, how could they manage to stay married? This, even with all the divorce, there's still a lot of people married. Yeah. So.
But I don't understand.
Yeah.
I've never thought about marriage that way before.
Yeah, go on. That's my kids' question. So.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying.
Different
I've
perspective.
never thought about it as a shchina thing. It's more for me two people who love each other and who support each other and who are there for each other.
Okay, but there's a concept that if you look in the Torah, what it says ish and isha, which is man and woman, aleph and shin.
Yes, and it's the yud and the hey.
Yeah, and aleph and shin is fire. So you see, when there's divorce, God forbid, they become fire. The Shekhinah goes out of the relationship. The Yud and the Hey that you just mentioned is no longer present. So now there's just two powerful fires burning each other. And that's what we see with divorces. It doesn't always have to be that way, but often it is this consuming fire. And anyone who's connected, the whole situation goes crazy until it's somewhat settled or time goes past. So the Shekhinah brings the fire into focus that it can bring life and bring warmth and bring goodness to the world. And that's the example that a man's called Ish and a woman's called Isha. It's not whatever. It's meaningful. And it's a miracle in a way that two different nations, in a way, like the way the Torah describes man and woman, they're like two different creations, the way we think, the way we talk, the emotions. There's a lot of differences that they can dwell together in the most intimate way. I spend more time with my wife than anyone. And yet we're so different. So how does it work? So one, there's a commitment, like you said, the dedication, the more practical aspect. We love each other, the soulmate. But there's also the spiritual aspect that's binding us together, giving us ability to bond when we seem to be so different. So, she's into shopping and I'm into into learning, Torah, or whatever, or going to events, music events. She doesn't really want to go to a music event, Everyone's got differences. So what's binding us together when it's such different? So I'll go shopping with her and she'll sometimes come to my events, or she'll come to a class, or she'll do something.
The couple does that as well,
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
it's compromise.
There's compromise. So you're right. Sometimes there's a rational, logical aspect. But one of the things that, if we look in the world, when there's such a push now to undermine marriage, the fact that the Jewish people will be one of the few people that will actually still have a relationship, and not only that, will have time where they'll turn these phones off and be able to actually disconnect to connect, and not be watching Netflix Friday night, actually have a meal together and talk to each other. All those kind of experiences that as a Jewish people, we're going to be that people of the book, we're going to be that people of connection through disconnection. That is going to be our message to the world. One of the messages is the power of two seemingly different worlds being able to be together in a miraculous way. And bring just the whole experience of bringing down children is miraculous. The whole just concept of man and woman is, if you think about it, it's very beyond. Like, I wouldn't have imagined it, and the creation is very godly. So that's something to think about. So that was my kid's question, like maybe in more simple terms than I'm saying, but yeah, go on.
Do you know the divorce rates of religious couples?
No, it is going up, yeah, definitely. And we know why.
Because it's becoming less taboo?
It's less taboo. It's going up also because it's like everything in the world, there's certain trends, and as much as the religious world tries to insulate themselves, they're still affected by the trends, because as time goes on, we're more and more needing to be involved. There's other reasons. People are, being more real. People are facing themselves emotionally more than they ever did. So they're not just going to cover things up or hide things. There's a lot more, which is good, because in a way, Rabbi Yahweh Jacobson, he's a famous rabbi worth listening to. He explained once and said that before the Messiah, Mashiach, comes, there's going to be so much need for us to work through everything that was. That's why I said, any time in normalization is a very good time to regroup, because this is a time where you can work out what I just went through, because it's so intense. We went through a Holocaust. Well, the people after the Holocaust didn't want to talk about it. So when are we going to deal with it? Now, everything's being dealt with now. All of the traumas from all the generations, from all our history are all being worked out, where most of us in Eretz Yisrael or around the world, but we're all working it out at the same time, still going through new traumas. So this generation is a very powerful generation in the fact that we're facing a lot of crap, but in another sense, we're also having to deal with all the generations before where it's sort of a build-up, and we're dealing with current challenges as well. So that's why it's so important to have these times, these moments to really bond and really connect with people, and to do being in a program like this where you get to talk out stuff and not just keep going and going and going like a rat race style businessman. You actually have time to work out stuff, and that's very, very powerful, what you're going through right now. Yeah.
So when you speak about the spirituality of marriage,
Yeah.
is that Tarat HaMishpacha?
Yeah, that helps the Yud and the Hey, the Shekhinah come to the home, and the Shabbos experience helps bring the Shekhinah, any kind of recognition of,
a religious environment.
yeah, a spiritual Torah environment helps brings that divine presence into your home more and more. And obviously the more you become sensitive, the more you understand it. Like just sitting around the Shabbos table. I mean, that was for me one of the openings why I wanted to choose, as we spoke last week about inspiration, is I chose inspiration because of those kind of experiences, walking into people's homes where I felt this energy and this love and this calmness that I'd never seen before. There was no TV playing, people were together for each other, people were dedicated, there was no unfaithfulness going on, people were honest. There was a lot of positive vibes, a lot of people working on themselves and growing. I will get to your question just one second. And then there's the other aspect of this week, we're talking more about clarification. You have to, once you've chosen inspiration, now you have to clarify what it is. And part of that is knowing what a man is, what a woman is, knowing what your differences are, being real about them, being real with your own issues, facing those issues. A famous quote, a rabbi once said, he's not even a rabbi, he's a businessman, his name is Geulah Fenster. He owns a bunch of rehabs, he's a friend of mine in Miami. Very cool guy. He's a bit like James Bond style, in the way he looks, but he functions on a very high level of spirituality, and yet he's the coolest guy. So he said about don't stuff your face your stuff. It's very important to face your stuff, but not to stuff your face. A lot of people are like Netflix and chill instead of dealing with their stuff. Yeah, we have to deal with it. Yeah, so it takes a lot of energy to do that, and he's someone who's up for that. It doesn't mean he doesn't chill ever. He goes to Miami Heat games or whatever he's into. We have to be human beings, but at the same time, you have to be on your game, because what I'm trying to say is, as normal as things seem, you have to be on your game, because we're constantly being on some level tested. There's constant challenges, there's constant changes. We're not in control. And rather than be nervous about it or anxious about it, be up for it. It's actually quite exciting. People get really into movies. So one of the things movies do is they keep you on your edge. The music, nowadays the ADHD in the movie, like you just go from one thing to the next. So that kind of flow, like, TikTok style flow, where it's just one more crazy thing after crazy thing after crazy thing. You don't even, like, back in the day when I watched a movie, you'd actually get, and I do watch sometimes old movies, you get to look at the characters, like really get to know them. There's moments of intimacy, there's moments of slowness, just space. Nowadays it's like a lot of movies are just bang, 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 like on non-stop impact, which is not the healthiest thing, but what it means is that on some level it's pushing people to be very much on their game, like especially the characters in the movie, but in our real life, we have to be up for it. Now, once again, there has to be time to regroup. There has to be time to say, now it's time to figure out what's been going on, clarify who am I, what am I doing, what's my goals. And this relationship flow happens all the time in my home. My wife would not let me get away with avoiding. A lot of men like to deny and avoid. You can't do that. If you have a real lady, a real woman, she's going to pin you down and say, no, look, we need to talk. We need to actually work through what just happened with our kids or with this war or where we're going. Like tonight, for example. Yeah, I'll get to your question, I will. Tonight, I'm going out, big night. Yeah, last night was a big night because one of my sons graduated, Mazel Tov. Tonight is a big night because my oldest son, who went through the war, is finally having his techus. And the only reason it took so long, because he was already out a few months, because he started a bit earlier than his unit, is his unit only came out this week from Gaza. So all his blood brothers, people he became so close with, and his mifaked and everyone, only came out at the beginning of this week, and we're going to finally all get together. I've never met any of these parents. I met one higher up in the army who was also a parent. I met maybe sort of in passing, but I've never really sat with them and had like an experience like we're going to have tonight. But yet we've been on this journey of almost 2 years of going through life or death, and you never knowing, and everyone's on the chat asking about this, providing supplies and constantly checking in, are they okay, when they've gone for a few days or a few weeks in Gaza or Lebanon or Syria and then back to Gaza, and you never know what's going to be going on. So like we all became very close in a way, like in a strange way, because we never met each other. But yet we're all on this journey together as parents, and the unit as well became very close, obviously. And they've had get-togethers already during this war, outside of the war, but we weren't invited as parents. It's the first time we're all coming, and it's a big deal. Like we're finally and thank God it's at a good point, because they're finished with their service, so they're not obligated to be going into fun. And a lot of them might come back as reservists and do some more missions together. So that's also powerful, that they didn't get like put off by it. They're on fire, they're inspired by it. But the point is that that's a powerful regrouping moment where we're going to get together and clarify what this is all about. Who was the captain? We're going to meet him finally in person. He's like adamant that my wife and I need to be there. Like phoning us. It's in Tel Aviv somewhere, because once again, it's not like a religious unit. It's a very not religious unit, but it's beyond that. We went through life and death together. Thank God there was no death on our side. On the other side there was plenty, thank God. But Hashem protected our boys, and I'm very, very excited to go through that experience. And these are kind of things that it's like normal, but not. Like that's not a normal. What all these young men went through is not normal, and what us as parents went through was not normal. When I grew up in London, what was normal? You go to university, yeah, you don't go to war. You don't walk around machine guns and booby traps on the walls, and you have to break through the doors and all the different. I've got like hundreds of videos and pictures from their drones and from their body cams and all that stuff, or the head cams, all the different footage. I have a lot of it on my drives because I downloaded it for my son. I was just wanted to keep it, And it's mad. It's mad to watch what they were dealing with day after day, the intensity and the heat and the, we're fetching a little bit because it's hot in here. They were like living in places with no air conditioning, incredibly hot Gaza with death all around. Like, this is young men. Just to get your head around so they've got to heal as well and deal with that as a people, and they're people you're going to meet. You're going to go out somewhere. If you come to my Levi show next week, Thursday night, I'm almost 100% sure there will be some reservists or some soldiers even serving now who have time off who will come by, and they've just gone through madness the last few months, and now they're in a cool place in Tel Aviv listening to Matziel's sons singing some cool songs about God and unity. Like, we're able. What's really miraculous in a way is that we're able to go on with life. If you think about it. The fact that I'm standing here and not like got some mental disorder from everything I went through, from all the sirens and from all this, it's crazy, like coming from London and never having any idea of this kind of lifestyle. Fine, maybe if you go back 80 years ago with the Blitz, so my grandparents, they heard, bombs and they saw the destruction. My great-grandfather was a firefighter there, and my other grandfather was a doctor. So they did experience that kind of craziness. So it wasn't that far off from our family's history, but it was pretty unlikely the way my life was going when I was in London. And so with you guys, you thought this is just like a fun 2 years. Maybe not. Maybe you saw what happened the year before with the beginning of this war, and the year before that, and then a few years before that with Corona. But the last 4 or 5 years, everything's been a bit whack. Yeah. So we're all going through, the world's speeding up. It's getting to a point. There's something to it, and the point is we need to clarify what is going on. And that's what these kind of moments are, and especially with your relationship. That's very comforting, though, is knowing that you have someone else that you can go through this with. And so to answer my son's question, how is it there's so many people that stay married? So the answer is, anyone got an answer? You said a few practical things. They love each other. Like, unfortunately, if you meet people who are not, they're not working on this actively, they're not mindful, is love enough? Because what is love? A lot of people love was initial attraction, or, to develop love, it means a lot of investment, a lot of connection, a lot of deep moments together. Like, love is a complicated concept, and is it enough always when things start getting testing, like financial tests or emotional, medical tests? Like, is it going to be enough to get you through it? So the answer, anyone has an answer other than that? Love? Anyone got another answer? Yeah.
I feel like because of society, we feel the need to stay together. They're too scared to be alone.
Yeah, so there is that. That's a good point. Yeah, go on.
So it's the same idea as, let's say, putting work into something like gymming or something like that. That motivation is what's gonna cause you to go and stuff, but eventually it's the discipline that's gonna make you carry on going.
Oh.
The same idea that you're gonna love the person like in the beginning, and that love might fade, but you still need to have trust and be loyal.
And the commitment. Yeah.
It's commitment.
Yeah. No, I see that. So people, and thank God, the previous generations are really good at all that stuff you were saying.
Yeah.
Our generation, I don't know, and maybe your generation even harder, the dating apps and the social media experience, and seeing the way like love is portrayed as just like so like open, and it's not as easy what you're saying for our generation and your generation even more to apply those true principles of commitment and dedication and discipline and all the older values that our parents for sure had. Yeah.
I think they stay together because I personally think that if you have a relationship without like God or whatever, I think you can still have a good marriage.
Yeah.
But so you can get by. I think that with God in it, you have a great marriage. So they found. It's not as enriching. So
even with God in it, it doesn't always mean. I agree with you that it can be great. It doesn't always mean that it's great in the way superficially, like the way the pictures show, or like how you portray it online. It's great in a profounder way beyond like the external way we understand great, because it's a very deep experience of life and God and spirituality and understanding that this person is worth me going out my way for day after day after day, moment after moment. It's a continuous mission to touch base, to be committed, to be focused. It takes a lot of energy, a lot of commitment, a lot of deep drives inside a person. And to come back to the question in the deepest way, and this is really important, so you know that there is such an opinion out there. It's good to know this. This is the answer that I gave my kids. The Bavitcher Rebbe. Any of you heard of Chabad? Chabad is everywhere. Chabad, just like you have Coke, you have McDonald's, you have Chabad, you have James Bond. You have Chabad is one of the biggest, Jewish organizations, nowadays. So they're compared to Starbucks in terms of their success, in terms of the ability to scale and be communal and worldwide. When I'm dealing with trips abroad, there's always Chabad involved somehow or another, for the kashrut, or they're either the ones booking the event because they're often doing stuff for the community. As soon as I knew I was going to Budapest in a few weeks, I straight away contacted my contacts in Budapest who are Chabad and asked them if they want to do any event while we're there as well. And they're so excited to see who I'm Nissan Black and this and that, and it was a whole discussion. So they're everyone knows Chabad. Now the Rebbe, he said a powerful thing. He said that the reason that people are married when they're not religious is called 2 words: Chesed Hashem, the kindness of God. Meaning God loves humanity so much that even if they're not religious, they'll still be successful in life and still have everything they need and still have marriage, which is a biggest blessing, because God is kind. He's not asking every person to be fully religious and fully committed, even though ideally that's what Jewish people are about. But on a real level, we're not always going to be that way. And you see that the way the Rebbe viewed the world, you see that is one of the reasons why Chabad is so successful, because there's no judgment there. They're just there to connect to you. If you're Jewish, they connect. And even if you're not Jewish nowadays, Bnei Noach, they'll give you the 7 mitzvahs. Bnei Noach, there's a whole thing how they connect to non-Jews as well. There's a no judgment policy. And that is the kindness of God manifesting in a movement, in a group of people, and an understanding of why marriage works on a spiritual level when there's meant to be a system that it shouldn't work, because they're pushing away the divine presence, because they're not keeping Tas Mishpacha, and they're not all these different things. But at the same time, there's this concept of kindness of Hashem, that God is kind and merciful, and He'll allow through the journey of humanity that there's going to be time periods where people are not going to be connected on a spiritual level, seemingly. Now, internally, we're all connected no matter what. We all have godly souls, so you can't get rid of that. But in the intelligent, in the awareness level, and the so-called label of I'm religious, I'm not religious, this whole need to label yourself, this surpasses all that. The fact that God wants humanity to do the first mitzvah of the Torah, which is what? Piravu, to reproduce, to have children. Fruitful multiply. That's a much better way of saying it. Fruitful multiply. He wants us to have children. He wants us to come together, 2 opposites, and bring down the soul. And it can either come down a man or come down a woman. Did you ever wonder how it works? How's it decided who comes down? Did anyone ever think about that? It's a deep question, but there is, Baruch Hashem, there's books that talk about it, Svarim, holy Svarim books.
When you look at which child? Yeah,
when a man and woman's together, what's going to bring down a more man soul or a woman soul? How does it work? There's spiritual concepts behind it. There's a concept, so I'll get into it, just say a little bit, just so you can hear about it. There's a holy rabbi called the Berditchev, Levi Yitzchak Berditchev. Yeah, he was a Sanega. He was someone who was a defense attorney for the Jewish people. So when you have all these Candace and all these all these horrible people out there, and Piers Morgan unfortunately seems to be on their side these days, or even Joe Rogan, it's really hard.
I thought he was
starting to get a little bit veered towards those because it's his friends, Dave Smith, all these guys.
Which Candace are you speaking of?
All these kind of, they're all starting to head in that direction. So they're prosecutors now on some level towards us. It's hard for me to say about Rogan because I am a fan of his. It's hard for me to accept that he's hearing so much negativity, starting to believe it. So there's this whole negative voice out there. But this is all prophesied is going to happen. Yeah, the world is going to turn against us, unfortunately. And it did already historically many times, and it's happening now. And then at the same time, there's a positive voice. So I mentioned the Bavitcher Rebbe. There's also this Kedushas Levi, or we have in our generation, righteous non-Jews, like Douglas Murray, who will come he'll stand up and fight for us. Or there's so many good people out there. My wife sent me a video. of some real British guy, and he's about that. You mentioned that Bob Villain. He got up and he said they all need to be deported. These kind of guys, a British guy. He said, you know why? Because I'm a Zionist. He's like nothing to do with the Jewish people, as far as I know. But he just knows that Israel's good, England's good, and these people are trash and need to go. Yeah. So this is, there's voices out there that are trying to fight the good fight. It's not always so politically seemingly correct, but that's part of the clarification we're talking about over here. So that needs to be done. We need to clarify. So coming back to the Bnei Akiva and in relationships, there's a concept of awakening from above and awakening from below. And there's a concept of who's aroused. Is it the man aroused or the woman aroused? And the way we understand it in Kabbalah and mystical texts is if the man's aroused, it brings down a feminine soul, because it brings down the opposite. And if a woman's aroused, it brings down the man's soul. Now take that concept and now think about all the people around you and the relationships and all the souls that came down and all these children. So there's a certain concept. Obviously there's an arousal in both man and woman when they're connecting, but there's a sort of a higher level version of arousal, like even more of a will to connect from one side that brings down either the man or the woman. And this is a mystical concept. I don't expect you guys to get it. It's very deep. It's from the Bnei Akiva. He was a big tzaddik and righteous person. But the concept is that on an intimate level, when you connect, there's souls, and the kind of soul that comes down is affected by the kind of involvement, energy, and excitement, and this is how deep intimacy is. And the world doesn't even think in those ways, because they're not thinking about souls and they're not thinking about these spiritual realities going on. You just have this drive and I want to act on it. Yeah, they're removing that spiritual element, but that spiritual element is there, because once a soul's coming down, I'll just say one more deep concept. Did you know when a soul comes down, it comes down through the man, the soul, through the mind, the thoughts you're having. And we mentioned this, I think, maybe a little bit last week, but the idea that man, this Geulah Fence talks about also, the man is in a way, and he brings it to a more modern way of understanding, is sort of downloading his das, his mindset into the woman at that moment. Yeah, I know we're getting intimacy, and I didn't say I was going to get into it, but this is more like the mystical side of it. We're not getting into the physical. Downloading his mindset into the woman. Now, if this guy is a trash guy, and these women are loose or whatever, going around man after man after man, she's getting all this trash downloaded into her. And then you end up with a Cardi B or something, yeah? Now, if it's a holy person, like the Bnei Akiva, or someone like and he's bringing down his holy souls, his mindset is pure and good, and wants only to, as the way the man should, to pleasure the other person and to connect, become one, and bring godly, pleasure to Hashem, and all this kind of high-level ways of thinking. So then you draw down a very holy soul, and it comes in and it is downloaded, and even if it doesn't manifest as a child, but the energy between the two people, they grow as people together in the most intimate, deep way, and they're bound together in this intimate moment. And if you understand it this way, this clarifies a lot where the world has externalized this beautiful, deep moment of soul connection, and it's made it into this whole physical thing. Like when I look online now and I see, it's painful to be online, it really is. But you see Jeff Bezos, I call him Bozo because he's a bozo. Yeah, you see Jeff Bezos or whatever, and his new wife. This is an example of how bankrupt his relationship is, and all relationships are, because she looks like a monster with those giant lips and everything just fake. Yeah, and you start to see more and more this is becoming the trend. It's ridiculous. It's not attractive. It's not anything. And any man who it's a complete money maker for whoever's doing all the operations, and it's a trend that makes no sense, other than they've just lost their understanding of what a woman is and what a man is, because it's just become so externalized and emphasized all the physical aspects. It's nothing to do with the personality or the soul or the inner values of the people. It's just pure externalization. So when you look at the way the world's gone with this whole level, it's a lack of clarity. And that's why our voice, our people, are once again going to remind the world, and we're going to get hate for it, because there's going to be a force that's going to resist us. I don't hold of anti-Semitism being the main problem. You know what I hold of it? Nobody talks about this. I'm one of the few people. This is a new concept. Anti-soulism is the main issue. Hitler, God Menachem, may Hashem erase his name, he didn't hate us just because we're Jewish. Like, who cares? They're Jews. They come from Jews. Like, what's it got to do with me? Yeah, I'm working in my job and I got my life. Why is the world so crazy about the Jewish people and about Israel? Non-stop. Why are they so crazy?
They hate us because they ain't us.
Hate us, whatever the reason is. But what the real reason is, because we represent soul. We represent what I was just explaining now in terms of intimacy. We are a people of soul. We understand through our righteous, books and people, and we have a journey. We have a soul level that they can't stand. And for me, like one of the things I got through Corona, when I couldn't do all my touring and all the connections with people, we were all like locked up in our houses. One of the only comforts I had, and that's why I started writing this book called United Souls, is that we're still connected on a soul level. I might not be able to physically see my family, but on a soul level, there's an energy. If you have a real group of friends where you can just see them, and even if you're not with them for a year or two, as soon as you see them, you just bond straight away. You don't have to work on it or anything. You don't have to there's no uncomfortable feeling. It's just totally natural connection. This deep feeling of these are my boys, these are my girls, these are my friends. Because there's a soul connection binding you beyond time and space. And this is something that I feel like people like Hitler, Menachem, hated. They hated the fact that there's a people of soul, and then they'll remind him that he potentially should have a soul and listen to that soul, and he doesn't want to listen to that soul. He wants to destroy that soul within him, and he wants to destroy the soul people that bring that out and remind him and make him feel guilty for who he is. And that consciousness of humanity, that guilty conscience, or that conscious awareness that there's more to life than just physicality. That's what we, as a relationship, if you realize if you're soulmates, you're not just man and woman, you're actually two souls becoming one. When you realize that you get clarity about that, now when you're looking for that other person, you start to think, well, I'm starting to become more aware that I have a soul, so there must be someone who fills that. And it might not be they're perfect. They probably aren't going to be perfect. Let's be real. I'm not perfect, so why should I get someone else who's perfect? But what I do get from it is I get a soul connection. And this is something which is perfect for me and perfect for her. And this gives us opportunity to really become more one, become more in tune with what I'm here for. And as a people, it's going to happen. That's why I get comfort knowing that I'm a soul. So I know that when I speak to my children and I'm with my children, each child is a soul. And when I go tonight to this event, and most of the people there are secular, so how they describe themselves, and they're from Tel Aviv, and they're from, these left wing, all these labels, I'm sitting in a place filled with souls who just did the most beautiful, soulful thing. They help protect our people. And I have appreciation for all of them, and the parents as well, because the parents put a lot of time and money and investment into funding the unit so that it should function in the best way. And that was part of Am Yisrael's success, because we're people of soul. We don't even if we don't ascribe it to soul, even when we don't ascribe it to soul, but the fact that we're so giving and so kind and so caring, and we're so unified in our essence, even if on an external level we seem to be arguing, but in our essence we're so unified, it's because we have soul, whether people want to admit it or not. And I know that that's a true reality, and that gives me comfort wherever I go, whatever I'm doing in life. I'm living in a more soulful way, and I'm living in a more soulful experience, and I have a more soulful connection with people, whether they're aware of it or not. And that's something which is very powerful. Now, it's painful in the other sense, because I wish people would be more aware. And I wish we didn't have a festival like Glastonbury, for example, which could be a time where when you see Bob Dylan, Lahavdil, performing when he performed. If you've watched that movie, did anyone see that movie of Dylan? Yeah, it's worth seeing it. The latest one that came out with Timothy Chalamet. Sorry. Beautiful movie. Everyone should see it. I don't know why the new generation don't watch this kind of stuff, but I would. Yeah, because it educate you who Bob Dylan was. He's part of our people. He's one of the most amazing songwriters in history. And Timothy Chalamet did an amazing job bringing it alive for our experience. And you see certain moments where he's performing, where you're seeing, like you were talking about Woodstock before, the original Woodstock. If you ever watch a guy called Richie Havens, the music events are some of those moments historically were soulful experiences. Now I watched Live Aid Live Aid was when Freddie Mercury and all those guys performed. I don't know if you saw Bohemian Rhapsody. So my family put that on. I was there. The energy there was like, oh my God, we're saving the world. This is unbelievable. You go to Live Aid, by the time corporations come in and the governments and all this stuff, and they put their energy to it, and people like Brad Pitt standing there and George Clooney, I don't feel the soul so much anymore, because these people are opportunists. They want, fame and money. You don't feel the soul anymore. So once Hollywood or Hollyweird got involved, it sort of loses the soulful connection. So to get to a level where soul, it comes with a certain level of sincerity and moments of connection. Now Glastonbury nowadays was the opposite. It was hate. It was pushing away soul. It was hating on our people who are people of soul. The IDF is a light unto the world, what they've done. They've got rid of people who want to murder humanity, want to murder soul. They want to murder, they're a death cult. They want to destroy America, destroy England, destroy anything to do with soul. They've made, their religion has become a focus on death. And we know our religion is all about chai, life. So we understand that life is, God made people to procreate, fruitful multiply, to bring life to the world, not to bring death. Yeah, not to bring up children who become murderers. That's their actual intention. A lot of them, like their dream is that their child becomes a martyr and blows himself up. Human shields. You know how many times my son saw in Gaza how they would carry babies to protect themselves? Like he saw this time after time after time. This isn't, disputable. This is, you can just ask any soldiers who are in Gaza I'm not going to lie. They saw it with their own eyes. Yeah, they're your brother, your cousin, your son. He saw it. You can see it on some of the pictures. It's visually been, they grew up with their school books teaching them how to kill and how to use guns and this and that. And basically, once again, it focuses on death. Our focus in school is on life. I read stories about, life, about how the inspirational miracle stories. When you clarify who we are and who they are, and so too with marriage, you clarify what a spiritual, uplifting, soulful marriage is and what Hollywood marriage is, which is the opposite. When you clarify more and more, then you get into the relationship flow. Then you're in a place of soul. And what we spoke about, inspiration, can, once clarified, can become something that's actually lived. It's not just talked about or, wow, that was an inspiring few years in Israel and see you later. It becomes part of your way of life. It impacts your daily struggles. And as we said, when things are seemingly normal, you have, as our wise friend said there, we're actually in a state of miracles as well at the same time. And then we realize that marriage is a miracle, that making an income is a miracle, living in Israel is a miracle. You start to live in a more like, wow. And it's actually something really inspiring, because you're constantly inspired by how much good things are happening all the time to protect us and to give us a good life and to be able to have beautiful families and beautiful homes and to be able to come on these kind of trips and have all kinds of fun experiences. And even when there's a cancellation, to reschedule, to have the strength not to go home and give up or be scared, but to have the strength to carry on with this trip and this program and whatever it is you guys are doing here, to allow the world Bnei Akiva to go ahead and not to give up. People could be like, what am I doing coming to Israel, war after war? Every year I see you guys, you keep coming. People aren't saying they're not coming to Israel. That is miraculous. I have family who are not coming to Israel, unfortunately. You guys obviously don't think that way. You just know that this is where you need to be. So that's your credit. So it's not normal. It seems normal right now, but it's a miracle, and you guys are miracles. And please God, you'll find your partner to be able to go through the miracle of life together and to be saved from these death cults and all these crazy people out there, to have good times and to, please God, to enjoy life, to have relationship flow that you can really be. When I mean flow, everything connects. Everything's not whatever. You start to see a deeper vibe going on in your life, in your home, and it gives you a deeper fulfillment. Nothing on the phone, nothing outside of our life will be more profound or powerful. We have everything we need within, and it's a blessing. That's it.